All right, this is the follow up, and we are following up today on a series of panel conversations I had on George's Base Chat entitled Diversifying Your Efforts. My guest today on the follow up is none other but the great Tomo Akaboshi. Tomo, thank you so much for making yourself available and welcome to the follow up.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Of course, my
George,
pleasure. My
George,
pleasure.
you
So, for
sound,
those, say again.
I was gonna say you sound like a pro, YouTuber, uh,
At this
host.
listen, at this point I am I've just looked. I have over 80 videos now.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, for those watching, for those listening, let me give you some background on why I thought Tomo would be a great guest today. um, in the panel conversations diversifying your efforts as a musician, I had a number of musicians on who not only had a full workload as musicians, as instrumentalists, but also have a full workload in another field of employment. Now, be it real estate, real estate development, that's what I do. Be it teaching, be it learning Chinese medicine, which was what one attendee did, um, or contracting, musical contracting, musical arranging, all of that. Um, so I thought Tomo would be a great guest because she has a very unique perspective on being a full-time musician, herself being a violin player, but also being a contractor and especially contracting international engagements and now also locally. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've started to do like off-Broadway stuff maybe in the past 2 or 3 years, but
Okay.
in general, I started in like concerts and recording like orchestra sessions.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, there it is. You have on the one hand a full workload as a musician. On the other hand, you're adding stuff to it or a different, point of view on this business. Depending on where you are, meaning if you are the contractor, you are going to see things differently, right? So why don't Tomo? Let me open it up to you. Why don't you kind of give us an idea of what led you down that path and how did you get to contracting, how did you get to adding all of that to your skills?
Yeah, so I started, I guess my first contracting would be, while in college in Japan, Andrea Bocelli came to tour and they were looking to put together an orchestra for a TV appearance with him. And so I helped put together like a majority of the orchestra.
Hmm.
And that was my first experience, which I think it was a pretty big experience for a first time,
For sure, I
for
mean that's
someone.
a major recording artist. Yeah.
Yeah, to trust a college student with that. But I think I did a pretty good job apparently, and so I kind of continued to do more contracting for like strings, and then as the years went by, it got bigger, and then it became full orchestras for like film sessions
Mm,
and concerts. And then now in the past 2 or 3 years, I've started to get into the New York theater scene,
right,
which I do believe is a completely different animal on its own,
right.
because of the community and the politics surrounding it.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and for me, I mean, I really, my desire to be in the theater contracting is because I definitely saw, the problems we have around diversity.
Yeah,
So that was kind of the reason why I wanted to get in.
right, right.
Yeah,
And you had like a background in it as well. From
yeah,
what like from what you're telling me right now, like when you came to the US, you already had been contracting in Japan for some time,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Now, let me ask you this, and this again might be something that is sort of difficult to answer because there's not one answer, right? But um, you as a violin player, you are what people understand in a creative job environment or in a creative job, right? Now, contracting, on the other hand, might not be all that creative, right? How, what are the two? How do you see the differences? Let me put it this way.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is so different. And
Mm,
I mean, the contracting, it's like organizing, project management, and sometimes you are producing because if it's not theater, I get asked to put together the creative team as well.
right,
So sometimes it's the composers, the orchestrators that I'm selecting myself,
right,
which there I do feel like a creative inspiration. Where when you get to really start a team on your own,
mm,
from how you know them, it's like an art on its own.
right,
But then from there, you're doing a lot of paperwork, a lot of contacting, a lot of Excel sheets, and figuring out budget.
right.
So it has both aspects, but definitely it is heavy on management and a lot of laptop work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also I think the people skills and people management.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Now, there's definitely a lot going on with that. I would imagine that there is some sort of cross pollination or pollination between the two entities of a creative job, and then perhaps something that's more managerial, right? I don't know is there something going on? Does one influence the other? Perhaps what's been your uh,
Yes.
experience.
Yeah, I mean, the smaller the ensemble is, you really are looking into people's also personalities and like exactly what genre they're very strong at.
Right,
So like when I'm considering about like my project, my creative project, which I have like a chamber jazz ensemble.
right,
It's a very like niche path
right,
where I want string players that know and have a sense of groove and rhythm, which is like, it's a certain group of people.
right, right,
So there's creativity in like really finding those people over the years,
right,
getting to know them, playing with them, and how each person interacts within certain personalities.
right.
So, someone might be a great blend with person A, but
Yeah,
not be with a person C.
right, right.
So I think that's kind of where the cross pollination is, where it's like you understanding what each player brings to
Mm,
the table, and then yeah, but and then that's is different from a more commercial
that's an interesting point as well. Yeah, yeah,
production.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 most definitely. Now, when doing all of this, right now, we've established you've done it already in Japan, right?
Yeah.
And then you came over here to the States. You did study in the States, is that correct? Or am I making that up?
Not really. So I was here from age 6 to 15,
Okay,
and then I did high school and college in Japan.
okay, 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 okay.
So I've only had like an American education until like middle school, pretty much.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Nevertheless, so you are basically working in an international environment. That was kind of where I'm trying to go with this.
Yeah.
If How far does this like differ? The international environment differ from, say, a local environment like the New York theater environment or the U.S. environment as a whole.
It's like absolutely so different
Oh
on
wow.
so many levels.
Mm.
Culturally also,
Yeah.
because in Japan or maybe a lot of Asian countries, like the younger you are, you aren't, really considered. You're looked at almost like as an assistant,
Oh wow.
which is, kind of too bad.
Mm.
But you really there the hierarchy is there very clearly there.
Mm.
Seniority is clearly there. We have to change the way we talk to someone depending on their age.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
so even starting from there, it's different. And I had to learn, I think, even performing here. Like one example would be, in Japan, checking something is always really good. If you
Mm,
are like checking with the conductor, like, am I am I playing as you'd like for me to play? Like,
mm,
how was my playing? That kind of check in.
yeah,
But here I've also noticed, if you do that too much, it it there's like, a confidence. People might look at you as not so confident.
yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
the American style versus the other countries, it is very different.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I would imagine so. I would totally imagine so. And that would probably also translate into the contracting work, translate, I would think that those cultural differences would translate all over no matter what you do, right? Um I mean, that I find fascinating because when we first met, you were a violin player, and then probably in one or two conversations this whole nother side opened up, and I was like, oh my god, she's doing this and that and that, and like the day has 24 hours for you just as much as for anybody else, right? How do you put all of that together? Like, how do you compartmentalize? It's that I would be interested in, because I know that I do struggle with that, when I'm working on piece of music, foreign artist, whatever, and I have to put on a different hat all of a sudden and be a landlord.
Right.
It gets tricky.
Yeah.
How do you deal with all of that?
Good question. And I'm still definitely trying to find
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way. But I think I used to, I don't know if this is a good thing, but I used to really just always be like on, you
right,
know. So I would be like in the pit, like finishing playing a show, but then I would have a meeting with Asia at like
right,
1 a.m.
right,
And like, so you're constantly on, and as soon as I wake up in bed, I'm already like doing emails,
right,
which I'm actually trying to get out of that habit
right,
because I don't think I was compartmentalizing enough.
right.
When you're constantly on, like it really does wear on you
Yeah,
in the long term. But I think when I was like in my 20s, I had so much like adrenaline, and
mm,
um, that would just keep me going. Like,
right,
you know,
right. Don't we all? Yeah,
yeah, it didn't exhaust me. But yeah. So I'm trying to take it a little bit easy. But nowadays, I am trying to like set boundaries of like when I start checking my emails,
right,
when to cloud, or not to cloud my mind
right,
with work stuff.
right, right.
Um, it's not easy,
No,
and whatever drama also happens at work, it's not easy to just be like, okay, I'm closing the door. It's
right,
5 p.m. I'm gonna forget about it.
right,
If
right.
it were that easy, I think we'd all be very healthy human beings. But
Yeah, most definitely. Not as if it were that easy, I think that, to a certain degree, we wouldn't necessarily be having the conversation about it, right? And that kind of brings me to the next point, and that was sort of the underlying question that I was trying to ask in the panel conversations, and that is the redefinition of being a musician, right? The overall, or the basis for that assumption is that our business has changed. It's done a 180, a 360, call it what you will, right? It has completely changed. The industry business, the recording business, has gone a different direction, right? Um, wouldn't it behoove us as musicians to change our definition of what our job description is, right? um wouldn't it behoove us to change that as well, right? What's is there does that somehow resonate with you, or is that something that you can speak to?
yeah, it resonates with me a lot, and I think musicians in America are completely like redefining
Yeah,
meaning of being a musician
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, for
where
sure.
I spent time like in Japan, it was there's so many things that were said to be a professional musician.
Mm.
That means you're only making your income with
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
You're not having a 9 to 5 job. There was like
Right.
a stigma around it. Um, and also what it means to be a professional musician. There were all these rules that someone made up that
Right.
you felt pressured that, oh, if I'm doing two things or three things, maybe I'm not a professional musician.
Right.
But I mean, coming to the States and really seeing so many people who with talents doing different types of jobs,
Yeah.
it definitely has like opened up a door for me to realize, oh, being a professional musician doesn't mean you have to have 100% of your income from being a musician.
Right.
There are amazing musicians who have a full-time job that's not in music.
Yeah.
It doesn't define their musicianship.
Right.
Um, and also there are unfortunately not so great musicians that are making music as their full-time job. So
Yeah.
you know who are we to judge
Yeah.
anyone
Yeah.
in that?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that very often, excuse me, that idea of okay, well, if you're a musician, that's it. You're just gonna make your living playing music. Um, it leaves out a lot of our greatest musicians, our greatest heroes, our big artists, big name artists who have subsidized their careers by having a teaching job,
Right.
right? So now, of course, if you have a teaching job, number one, I'm not taking anything away from the responsibility that comes with that and from the sheer amount of work. But the reality is that your income is somewhat fixed, right? And you can really focus on that particular creative job or creative endeavor that you're really into. Whereas if you don't have that teaching job, you have, in order to survive, you're going to have to take more gigs than just that one outlet, right? And chances are your paths are going to be wildly different, right? So I don't have an answer to that question. Certainly don't want to propose a new definition of anything. Like, who am I to say that, right? But um, I do believe that it's important to at least acknowledge that, wait a second, this has always been here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this has always, the people I look up to, old, young, contemporaries,
Right.
non-contemporaries, have always done that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that what you said about Japan, that there seems to be a very strict idea of what it means to be a musician. Is that, do you think that has historical roots or cultural roots? Because I find me, having grown up in Austria, there is a similarity.
Hmm.
It might not be the same thing, but there is definitely a similarity. But what's your take on that?
Yes, there's definitely like a cultural and historical background.
Okay.
Um, and like the Japanese culture is about. I mean, they really put their life on being professional
Right.
and working.
Right.
So if you don't put in 100%,
Right.
it's something to be ashamed of.
Mm.
And also, I mean, I was taught when I was in college, like, Tomo, you are not allowed to cancel any gigs
Oh,
ever.
wow. Check
And
that
I
out.
followed that rule, and most people still follow that rule,
Mm.
because even if the the commitment you made pays $50 and you are offered $1,000 gig,
Mm.
you do not cancel.
Mm.
Not the commitment.
Oh, wow.
And I followed that rule definitely in Japan, um, and most people I think still follow it. I was really shocked actually when I came here that people cancel their gig.
It's like, wait a second, I got a better gig. See ya. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm not doing.
yeah. The concept was really like new for me. I was like, what?
Yeah,
You're canceling your gig?
yeah,
And
yeah.
actually, it's tricky as a contractor
Mm,
because when you don't know 100% if someone is might bail on the gig,
right.
it's your responsibility. So it is harder for the
Oh
contractors.
yeah, 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 most definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's an interesting perspective that we musicians never think about in reality. Like we need to think at our bottom line, and if this gig pays more and this gig pays less, and what are the whatever the parameters might be, right? But we never think about it through the eyes of the contractor, or
Right. And that
that's interesting.
yeah, and that has helped me so much, like working in productions, like even as a production assistant, I've worked on
Mm,
concerts, like seeing all the moving pieces and how we are seen from the people who are employing you.
right,
um, that kind of perspective I really appreciate that I have now
right.
because of doing so much production work.
Yeah, 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 most definitely. Well, listen, Tomo, I'm so thrilled that you're here today. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. Anything in order to wrap this up, anything that comes to your mind, if people want to get into contracting, if people want to get into the managerial side of things,
Yeah,
what would some resources be, or how would one go about that?
yeah, that's a good question. I think also one general thing is like you should really like working with people,
Hmm,
and you should
that's a
also
good one.
be someone who really care about other people.
Right,
I I have seen, contractors that just are very happy to feel like they're giving work and they have some kind of control
right,
over people's employment.
right,
I don't think personally that's a really good attitude to have.
right.
So I hope, like, if people want to get into it, it's from that you have a joy of putting people together.
Mhm.
You just generally like people,
Right.
and you have good people skills,
Yeah.
and that you do want to give opportunities to other people when if you have the power to do that.
Right. Right. Well,
um,
I mean, that makes so much sense, and that sums it up just beautifully. Because that one thing that I definitely noticed in the panel conversations is the not only the the reasons why there are secondary streams of income, right? Of course, there's necessity, there's the reason, the need to survive and all of that, but then at the same time there is interest,
yeah,
and then there is, and I think that perhaps, if and you stop me if I'm saying something that's wrong, but it seems to me that with your particular second line of income, there is also this interest, right? This interest in the managerial process of how to put something together, right? And perhaps, as a takeaway from these conversations, people in the audience can sort of ask themselves, number one, what are my interests, and am I really following them,
right,
or am I somehow allowing myself to be held back by whatever,
right.
you
Because
know
I think in COVID we all like realized that to question ourselves.
right.
And I think we want to ask ourselves, like, why do we want to do this?
Yeah.
Why do we want to do music? Why do I want to get in contracting?
Right.
Why do I want to get in anything XYZ? Like, is it for the money?
Right.
Is it because I'm interested in the process?
Right.
Is it because of fame? Like, there's so many
Yeah.
reasons, right?
Yeah.
And I think the clearer you kind of know if your heart is there or not, it's it's you'll follow your heart if you
Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
the
For
passion.
sure. For sure, for sure. Well, listen, Tomo Akaboshi, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time and speaking to me and letting me and the audience into your process, what that is concerned, what all juggling all these seemingly very different hats is concerned. Stay safe out there. We are in the process of opening up. Like anyone who watches these videos like sees me saying stuff like, um well, we might not be open yet, so stay safe, and then a couple weeks later it's well, we just got good news, we might be opening up, so stay
Yeah.
safe. But I'm like, okay, stay safe nonetheless.
Yeah, we have to protect our health and mental well-being,
Yeah,
and that's what we've, I think, learned from COVID is you can protect yourself
yeah.
and you can find your ways to be happy.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Well, listen, Tomo Akaboshi, thanks so much again,
Yeah.
and I hope to see you soon in Midtown or somewhere.
Wherever music
Okay,
is being made.
okay, all right. You take care now.